Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of Teen Talk Live. All right, my name is Dillard. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and the host of Teen Talk Live. We're getting a little feedback in the background. We'll see what we can do about that. All right, Dr. Paula, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm getting a little feedback. I'm not sure what that
It's a little bit of feedback. I can hear that too.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So everybody, tonight we have our special guest, Dr. Paula Langford, who is here with us. And our episode tonight, we're going to be talking about practical skills to navigate not just trauma, but grief and loss. That's a part of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But in acknowledgement of this is National Grief Awareness Month. November is, and so in acknowledgement of that, we are talking about grief. We are talking about ways to navigate that, and so join us and share this so other people can hear about it. All right, welcome, Dr. Paula. Introduce yourself so the people know who you are.
So first of all, I want to say thank you, Anne, for asking me to be a guest again. I really enjoy your show, and I enjoy just having the opportunity to talk about this. My name is Dr. Paula Langford. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Maryland and in Washington, D.C., and I have a private practice that focuses on training social workers and mental health professionals.
Awesome. And you forgot to say you're a global.
Yes, a global social worker. That's true. Yes.
Global social worker.
I got to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you said yes, because you didn't have to say yes, but I'm glad you said yes. So thank you for saying
You're
yes.
welcome.
So let's talk to the people. Grief. We talk about good grief, but when we're looking at grief, that's definitely loss is definitely a part of that process. And what I guess I want people to understand is that grief doesn't necessarily have to do with death.
Absolutely, it does not. And a lot of times that's what we focus on, but we don't focus on things like grief and loss around our health, around relationships, around in relationships, intimate relationships, friendships. There are those stages, and so it could also be grief, things like grief and loss around the things that's going on in the world, and the connection with that. And what comes to mind for me is the hurricanes and things like that, and how that impacts us.
Yeah, natural disaster. That is
Absolutely.
That is definitely things that cause you grief, right? And even thinking about that, just a little transparency. I remember the first time when one of my children couldn't come home for like Thanksgiving. That was such a painful thing for me.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine when you are accustomed to having that connection, and particularly when you're talking about a child or a parent, not being able to have that tradition continue because either they can't get home for whatever reason, and how that feels about not being surrounded by that loved one. Yes.
Yeah, that's challenging. And I also want people to think about, my primary audience is working with teens and their moms especially. But I want people to really think about um, what the young people, children, teenagers are going through over the holidays, and it's not necessarily a happy time for everybody.
Yes, we forget that we have lights and we have the whole that Thanksgiving is around family, and that's what we traditionally think of. That lots of people are coming together and having dinner. Well, we have a lot of teens across the world, really, who are either homeless or they don't have those kinds of family connections where they get a chance to sit down and have that meal together and spend that time. Then you have on the heels of Thanksgiving, you have Christmas and it's lights and gifts and things like that. And with economic situations, they may not have that. And so they grieve that in a different way. Again, I'm reminded of our families who are in shelters, and the teens having to, go to school with kids who may not know that that's what their situation is and how it impacts them, um, to to the point where sometimes they may lash out. You're talking about teens being depressed during this holiday. A lot of suicide happens, or self-harming behaviors. And so we must remember that our teens don't always, everybody, like you said, everybody doesn't have the same happy place, right? And even those teens, we miss sometimes those teens who are doing extremely well in school, but they internalize those kinds of things because they may have either lost a pet or lost a or even lost a friend because they have gone to another school,
Yes.
or in light of what's happening in the United States, been deported, or family members. We miss all of that. And those are the kinds of things that we need to kind of help people to, and particularly mental health professionals, I think, get it sometimes. I think it's the rest of the community that really needs to be reminded of those kinds of things.
I think that's so true. And you touched on a lot of populations. One of the population that stands out to me, because I've worked with children from this population, are those in foster care.
Yes.
And even after they've grown up,
Yes.
they might not enjoy the holiday season
Yes.
because of the memories of.
Yes.
And so we have to really be cognizant about how we celebrate. And it's not to say anybody don't celebrate.
Hmm.
I'm just saying be aware of other people's story.
That's a good point. I've worked in child welfare for Maryland and DC for at least 30 years. And a lot of times we have a lot of placement disruption because it's around the holidays. It's around, those transitions and multiple transitions. It's about not being with their families for various reasons. I'm thinking of a case I have now. It's not that the child doesn't want to be with that family member, it is that that particular parent does not have the capacity to be able to maintain sobriety to keep the child safe. And so that is another sense of loss when we're talking about these holidays.
Wow. Wow. That is so key. And you've shed light on a lot of things right there. Um, I've been posting a lot about grief and loss. And in my circle alone, there are a lot of families who are dealing with first.
Yes.
It's like, this is the first Thanksgiving without this person. This is the first Christmas or the first New Year that's coming up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you're kind of at a loss
Hmm.
as to what do we do? How do we
Hmm.
continue to celebrate
Hmm.
with all these feelings, with all this grief,
Hmm.
and even feeling guilty about, navigating that space?
Right, right. That's I think that's key. And particularly if it's a recent loss. My One of my friends lost her dad earlier this year. And so this is the first Thanksgiving that he won't be there. She's a mental health professional,
Yeah.
right? And so helping, I think what we need to begin to do is to help people prepare for various kinds of activities, weddings, particularly someone just lost their dad from a community, and here we are on the heels of Thanksgiving, but so that preparation may not look the same. But for persons who earlier on, how do we prepare them for, and when I say weddings, the people who are getting married and their loved one won't be there, or first Thanksgiving without a particular person, or any of the holidays. We're going into a new year, and so in their minds, they're going into a new year without.
Right, right. And that's difficult. That's
Right.
difficult. And sometimes, we can, as adults, sometimes we're so busy trying to navigate our own spaces, our own feelings, that it's easy to ignore what's going on in the lives of the children, and a lot of times, without being intentional, we leave
Mhm.
them to navigate the space and find meaning on their own, and that's
Yes.
not necessarily the appropriate thing to do.
This is true. So I use as an example, I love examples to make it very
Very
clear
good.
for,
Yes.
yeah. And so to be transparent, about we lost my niece last year,
Hmm.
in September. And so my mom and I were talking today about, because we went out to purchase Christmas things. She left us with what I call 4 hearts, right? And with that, we really overcompensated for Christmas, because
Uh,
we didn't want that to be the focus for the children.
right.
And we wanted to surround, as family, we wanted to surround them, so almost that, not that you forget your mom, but maybe for a brief moment. But that was our way of helping ourselves
Yes.
not to have to focus on that either, because when I tell you, I just pulled up with all kinds of stuff, right?
Right.
But it wasn't until afterwards that I really had to realize that me trying to make sure the children weren't thinking about it, it helped me not to focus on that, because she was also my goddaughter. She's my niece and my goddaughter. And so, we have to remember that sometimes when we try to keep the kids safe, it really is us trying to keep ourselves safe
Wow. That's pretty
emotionally.
powerful. That's pretty powerful. And from working with clients and working on my own grief,
Mhm.
I know one thing, that grief will not be robbed. So you try to push it down and you try to avoid it as much as possible. It's gonna come back.
Mhm, mhm.
And you don't necessarily get over it. You get through things.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily get over things. So while we're there, let's talk about what are some practical things that people can do, um, about, or maybe we should explore a little bit about what's happening in the brain.
Sure.
Well,
So,
understand it's not just
okay,
a mood that
food.
you just go through,
Right.
but it literally changes things.
It does. So what's happening is an interruption in the neural pathways. So you're creating a neural pathway where grief stays stuck in the brain. And so the brain, with the way the brain is designed, it is perfect in the sense that every emotion, the brain, I call it brain, but the brain doesn't know events.
Hmm.
The brain only knows emotion. So when you're feeling the depression, when you're feeling the sadness, when you're feeling overwhelmed, those kinds of, that's what the brain is tapping into. And so what the brain does is it says fight, flight, freeze, got to get out, got to get out, got to get out. And then we end up putting in things that are sometimes not healthy, like overcompensating,
Yes.
like substances,
Yes.
the sleep portion. And so the brain is trying to protect the what I call the host, and that's the body.
Yes.
In creating those neural pathways, you set yourself up for the body constantly recognizing that whenever that emotion, whenever depression shows up, I don't care if it's, well, they're having a potluck and they didn't invite me to it. The brain doesn't know event, it only knows emotion. So that it's tapping into your grief and loss. It's creating yet another groove, right? So that this is what this feels like. And so that's how the brain operates. And that part of the brain is the midbrain or the limbic system, which then takes the blood away from what we call the prefrontal cortex, which is that rational part of you.
Right.
And so you cannot say, the blood, if the blood flow isn't there, you cannot create ideas for how to maintain your safety.
Right.
You go, yeah. So.
Right. And I think that was a wonderful way of breaking it down. And when you cannot do that and you cannot rationalize, when a person is in that state, you can't talk them into you can't rationally talk them.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So there are other things, other creative ways to tap into I don't want to say tricking the brain, but
no, but that's what it is.
Right.
That's actually what it is, because as wonderful of an organ that it is, that's exactly what you do. You convince there is a little groove that runs down the middle of the brain, and because you have two lobes, you trick it by making them operate at the same time. So it's like, wait, what's going on here? But when you take the negative, what we call negative cognition, and transfer it to a positive cognition, the brain forgets about the negative and moves over to the positive. And so it's able to relax itself.
And in doing so, and the more that you're able to trick it and turn to positive, the more you're creating new neural pathways.
Yes.
Which, look,
I know, I was going to do that too. Yes. Exactly.
You're creating new neural pathways. So it's not necessarily that you got over the grief. It's just that it doesn't impact you as intensely because now you have trained your brain in a different way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the new neural pathways create a new way of seeing the grief, which then the body reacts to that new way. The other thing is it then sends nutrients to the brain to create a healthier brain.
Yes. Whew, that was a good lesson on the brain. Mm-hmm. All right. So tell us, so how are some of these ways that we can trick our brain?
And there are many of them. I think that one of the things, like I said, the brain only recognizes the emotion. And recently I just came back from learning EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Mm-hmm. And that can be done with really eye movement side to side, where you move your eyes along with guided hands, or that could also be tapping. And what you do is you take the negative thought or cognition, and then when you bring that up and that emotion, then you move to a positive cognition, and then you bring that up. So then as you continue to reprocess with the eye movement, the brain then moves over into the positive. So that's one way to do that. And you can get a clinician who is trained in EMDR to do that. There's also, and it's interesting that we're having this conversation, because last night I did this for a sorority in Fort Washington, and these are the techniques that I gave them. There is EFT, emotional freedom technique, which includes tapping on meridians in the body, right? Yes, to calm the body down. And while saying that, again, that impacts that you got it, that impacts the brain, mm-hmm, to help the brain to say, I'm safe. everything is going well, those kinds of things. So you got it. You got it, the tapping points, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because there are 14 meridians in the
Right,
body. And
right.
what you do is you open up those
You
meridians, right?
absolutely
So that you can get the those emotions unstuck.
right,
And
right.
so teaching you how to tap on those meridians. I think there are
Mm-hmm,
10 meridian spots, but it
mm-hmm,
covers,
mm-hmm.
if you do them right, it'll cover all 14
It,
meridians in your body and help you free, which
exactly,
emotional
exactly.
freedom technique helps
Yes.
you free that pathway so that it's not trapped in your body.
And I teach people that when you learn the technique, to
Mhm.
utilize the technique so that even when you go to sleep, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of times this time we may not sleep well, insomnia. And so I actually do this every night. And this is how I go to sleep. You
Mm-hmm.
know, either I'm doing the EFT and I fall asleep, or I'm doing self EMDR where my eyes are closed but my eyes are moving closed side to side, and so I'm doing that like this. Um,
Right.
the
Right.
other technique that I think people forget is that around this time we don't have as much sunlight.
Mm.
And so color really impacts. Now, my favorite color is black. I have black on today. That's my favorite color. And for me, I have taken the emotion around black being a somber color to black being a more powerful color for me.
Uh,
But colors that impact the brain are like yellows and oranges, pinks. And now with fashion, you can basically wear any color that you want in any season. So now you can actually wear white, which absorbs the sun rays, as opposed to the black, which deflects that.
right.
So that's another thing to consider. Consider color. And if you cannot, because of where you live, bring in pictures, right?
Uh,
And put those on your desk and put scenery, beach scenes. If you like the mountains, mountain scenes, things like that. So that's
that,
another
oh, that's really good because you can put that on your screensaver. You can
oh,
put that on your phone. Um,
absolutely. You can put it on your dashboard.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Just introducing that color because
That
it
color.
does something to the brain.
Absolutely. And your favorite color,
Yeah.
right? So not only pink is not my favorite color. So that would not be a color. I wear pink, but that would not be a color that I would put up. I like orange. I
Mhm.
like black. I like yellow. And I had to grow into liking yellow because they always told me it didn't go well with my skin tone. But
Uh,
I like yellow,
mhm.
right? So that's a technique.
Look, I'm team purple all the way.
Oh, that's my favorite color though. Purple is my favorite color. I don't know if you remember, I got the purple scarf when we were in Senegal.
Yes, I
So
remember the purple star.
that's my favorite. The other technique is the use of affirmation.
Ah,
So affirmation, and not just saying affirmation, but being mindful of what your body is telling you.
mm,
Because again, with emotions, we can say affirmations all day long, but if we're not feeling that affirmation, then that affirmation is not working for you.
wow.
Yeah, and I've just come across a new technique called switch words. And
Oh,
it is not the definition of the word, but it is the energetic component of the word, because everything has energy in it. And
okay.
so when you think of like during this time, I was teaching yesterday, up and move are two. Up, one word, move is the second word. Putting, even if you just said up, up, and you said that, then the vibration, the hertz around, hertz as in the vibration hertz,
Vibration. Yeah.
um, will actually cause an energetic change in the body and the brain to
Wow.
give you more energy. So combining up and move, that gives you the double energetic vibration to be able to use that. So one of the things I like to read, so I want to remember what I read. So before I read, I'll use the switch word care. right? And so what I do is I pick up the whatever I'm going to read, and I say care, and then I'm reading, and in between, as it comes to me, I say care. So I'll remember what I read, but I also remember what's coming up as I read.
Oh, that's powerful. And I mean, that goes hand in hand with for those of you who read the scripture or sing encouraging songs or praise songs and things like that, how the vibration literally transforms the whole atmosphere.
Absolutely. You've reminded me, because scripture says, at the name of Jesus,
Yes.
every knee shall bow. And I'm just using it as an example because you have other sacred texts that unfortunately I can't pull it up right now in my memory bank, but you have other sacred texts that says something very similar. But at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. Well, that is calling into a sense of control around what comes. And so if you were to use the machinery that measures energy, it will be wonderful to see what the vibration of the word Jesus is.
Wow. And I mean, I'm off to something else now, but I'll come back. Trust me.
Oh, good.
But I believe that's true because it depends on, I think part of it depends, the level of energy depends on how you say it.
Absolutely.
Because I know when I'm driving and somebody comes right out in front of me and I'm like, Jesus, that sends a different level of vibration.
Because you're at a different level of vibration.
And it creates a different level of energy.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is good stuff. So let's keep telling the people about different ways to navigate their grief and loss this holiday season. And one of the things you made me think about was adult or teen coloring books.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And now they have the coloring apps, and you can get that for free. But that's another way of introducing color into your life.
Absolutely. And I have that app on my phone and I love it. Unfortunately, I get absorbed so much in it that hours later I'm still coloring because it's calming me. Yes. And it relaxes, and that's what it does. And it's even better because I travel so much, so that's why I have it on my phone. But I also have the coloring books and the markers. I just go to the dollar store and pick up some of them. But that movement helps heal the brain as well. And so it helps you to relax yourself. Hot baths with essential oils is another way to do that. And Epsom salt to remove the toxins that grief can cause the body to create. Is another one. Herbal teas is another one. A nice massage, and something that really is free, is going for a walk.
Wow, that is true. That is true. That is so true.
Excuse me.
And I'm thinking about, like one family reached out and said, all the kids are having a difficult time this holiday season. Things are because they've lost a very significant elder in their family. And I thought about different things that they can do, and creating, not avoiding the conversation, but having the conversation, creating new traditions. Creating a memory box. Now that's something that I've worked with clients on doing.
Oh yeah. A memory box is wonderful. I was telling my mom also, so today we're talking about grief and loss, and today is my brother's birthday, and my brother has been he passed 5 years ago. Wow. And so being able to have that conversation, and I thought it was significant that we're having this conversation and it's on his birthday, right? Wow. Excuse me. And so, but my mother and I having that conversation, and I said to her, how'd you do today? She says, oh, we did a devotional today, and we dedicated our morning. She and my dad, they did the morning devotional around my brother and his children, and how much comfort that was. So the boxes are great. Your favorite picture of the individual. I would even say for my niece's children, they maintain a picture where they by the T, because they always like playing the little TV games and things like that. So they maintain a picture of their mom there. Wow. And some they go by excuse me, they go by when they go past the picture, they say, hi mommy. Mm-hmm. But those kinds of things that her favorite color or things like
that. Another tradition or another activity would be like making a memory bracelet. Wouldn't that be like a perfect activity for the family to come together, and you have a bunch of beads and different symbols, and you're making this bracelet, and everything on there symbolizes something. I just think that can be such a powerful bonding, grieving experience.
That's a wonderful idea. And when you get to those moments, not that it may be a significant event, but just maybe sometimes you're feeling it at that point, to just kind of touch the bracelet and rub the bracelet. That's also a calming technique for the body as well. That would be really nice. A popcorn night and beads all over the table, and we make bracelets to remember our person. A family member, a pet, or whomever. And that's a great idea.
Those beads and touching them, rubbing them keeps our body grounded.
Absolutely. Grounding beads, yes.
Yes. And I also thought about, journaling activities.
Another great.
That's so great. And even sharing, coming together and sharing your favorite memories. It's sad and it's heavy, and your brain is doing all kinds of things, but there's so many different things you do as you create new traditions. Some people also leave a chair at the table.
My grandmother did that when her sister passed. She left a chair and for a while, and that helped her because they always ate together. They lived together and they always ate together. And that's a great idea that we remember our family member or our friend.
Yes. Lighting a unity candle in their honor, a moment of silence, just anything to bring this person up, keep their memory alive. Because the more you try to squish it and not think about it and not talk about it, the harder it becomes, because grief is going to run its course.
And the more painful it is for you, right?
And the more it impacts your body.
Absolutely. Yes,
you have to work hand in hand with it and help. And if you need help learning how to do the EFT tapping, I teach my clients how to do that. And so they are empowered to, when they get in intense situations, they can, start tapping and get through it. Because one of the things I really love about tapping is it tells you to focus on the negative emotion.
Yes.
Usually we're trying to focus on only the positive.
Right.
And so it helps you to desensitize that the impact that negative emotion is having on you.
Absolutely.
So I absolutely love that technique.
And I think more people need to know that it is available, because we do it naturally sometimes. Because you're like, well, wait a minute, what is the name of? Wait a minute, hold on. I'm trying to figure out. And so we're touching those meridians anyway. So, but if we are mindful that they're there and the impact they have on calming us, that is, I think, what and I think you do it, I do it, and some other clinicians who have learned those techniques, we do it to make sure that people don't have to rely on us, but they can have something in their own toolbox when they
Yeah.
can't get to us.
Yes.
And can I just say this? And that we can use for ourselves.
Absolutely. Because clinicians go through grief. We have loss, lots
Absolutely.
of losses.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And so knowing, having our own toolboxes is really important.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So, Dr. Paula, oh my gosh, I thank you so much for taking time to talk to us tonight and to educate my audience. Would you please tell people
Mhm.
where they can find you? And oh, and you got something exciting coming up soon. Don't you all have a book being released soon?
Oh, yes, we do. At the end of the month, I will be releasing with my co authors our latest anthology, Fiercely Speaking. And my chapter is All My Life I've Had to Fight. And it talks about really, in many ways, trauma and the ability to now speak and find my voice in the midst of going through that. So that will, the Amazon launch is November 25th.
Wow.
So that it will be, you can find that on the Healing Institute of Baltimore's Facebook page. And anyone who wants to reach me for therapeutic services, I'm at heal, HEAL, Balt, BALT at gmail.com.
Excellent. And when you get a chance, I know you're traveling, but when you get a chance, drop it in the comment section so
Sure.
our friends can find you. But I let me see if I missed any comments. Oh, Sister Kimball is on. Thank you for joining. I hope that this has been helpful. Let me know if you have any questions for Dr. Paula as we get ready to wrap up our show. And anybody else who is listening at this time, if you have any question for our guest presenter tonight, just drop them in the comment section so that we can get them answered for you. But Dr. Paula, I just so appreciate you. And I thank you for all the great things that you're doing to heal Baltimore and beyond.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Right. And I just hope that as people navigate this holiday season, they pay attention to taking care of the grief and the loss that's in their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The holidays are vastly approaching, but there are things that we can do to make sure that we are safe physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally.
Yes. And I forgot who said this. This might have been Tyler Perry, but I thought it was just so profound when he said, I hope you experience grief as a wave and not as a flood.
Oh, wow. Yes,
You
that's
know,
nice.
that
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
ride the wave, but a flood overtakes you.
Takes you.
And so
Mhm.
hopefully you're able to use the tools that we've shared. And if you have additional tools, drop them in the comment section. And I hope your experience with grief um, is like a flood, a wave, not like a flood.
Yeah.
Thank you all again for joining us for tonight's episode of Teen Talk Live. I am your host, Ann Dillard, licensed marriage and family therapist. It has been a pleasure serving you, and let us know how we can help. Have a good night, everyone.